Knowing your home value matters. It impacts your net worth. It affects your insurance coverage. It matters for your property taxes, which we've just been talking about. It's critical if you're considering getting a home equity line of credit, also known as a HELOC. It can remove your PMI. If you have private mortgage insurance or mortgage insurance, you can get that removed if your equity is high enough.
Depending on the type of loan you have.
Correct.
Help, I need some guidance. Help, selling and buying. Help, I need some real estate. Help.
It was the first or second week of Parade of Homes here in Albuquerque.
It was the first weekend, and this weekend is still Parade of Homes, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
And we talked about that last week, and we have got quite the list of things to go over this week, Tracy. Jam-packed show this week.
Yep, we're going to fly through it. Tego, notice of values. I think we should start there because there's some deadlines, right?
Yeah.
So the county assessor, when you own property, they send out a notice of value every spring that tells you what your home value is. And what that value is what is the result of your bill that comes out in November.
Yeah, that's how they determine how much they're going to tax your property for property taxes based on what the value of the properties are.
Right.
The interesting thing this year is it's a little confusing. Well, let me rephrase that. If you own properties in multiple counties in Metro Albuquerque, it's a little confusing because Valencia County and Bernalillo County have delayed sending out their notice of values, where Sandoval County already did send out their notice of value.
And so if you look at your notice of value, which here's one of ours from Sandoval, not that you can really see it, but it basically says, this is the amount we feel your property is worth and is what we are going to use to assess how much tax you are going to pay for property tax. But right now, because the deadline is looming, depending on when you're listening to this, right? Because the deadline to protest the notice of value is May 1st.
Yeah, exactly. So that's for Sandoval County. Bernalillo and Valencia are not sending them until May 1st, which means you have 30 days from the mailing date to protest. And so what does protest your taxable value, Tracy? What does that mean?
That means you want to put together some data that shows that you feel that they're overvaluing what your property is worth and supply some data to them to show that. So in past years, we've been able to help some of our clients by supplying some of the sold data of properties near theirs to show that they've overvalued the home that you own.
So now's the time. It's that time of year. It is April.
For 2 or 3 more days.
Yeah, a few more days.
So if you're listening to this and it's still April, you might be able to meet the deadline for Sandoval County.
Yep. Tracy, we just jumped right into our first topic but we didn't even introduce ourselves.
No, but okay, go ahead.
Okay, we are Tego and Tracy Venturi from the Venturi Group of Real Broker here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Tracy, we're on episode 533, and it's the Albuquerque Real Estate Talk is what we've called it for many, many years.
Yeah.
And happy to be doing this. And like I said, we've got a jam-packed thing. So we were just talking about property values, and we're going to go ahead.
Just to piggyback on property values, also, if you don't have a mortgage on your property or you have chosen to pay your property taxes yourself, the second half of property taxes for 2024 is due by May 10th. So if you own a property free and clear and you pay your own property tax and you haven't paid it in full, second half is now due.
Well, and one of our topics today, and we're going to take a deep dive on this, is why does knowing what your home is worth so important? It really does matter a lot. And we're going to dig into that, and then also how to understand what your property is worth. And there's a lot of different options out there, and we're going through the pros and cons of all of those. Tracy, I do have the misleading headline of the week in the real estate world. I'm going to talk about that just for a minute because, I like to cause trouble on real estate news because there's so much bad real estate news out there. So again, if somebody wants to get a hold of us, Tracy, how do they do that?
Best way, give us a call, 448-8888 in the 505. Very simple, 448-8888. You can always hit us up on our Facebook, our website, through any other online site, you'll find us on Instagram and everywhere. But
Call,
just
text,
give us a call or text
DM,
us.
chat, whatever it is.
Sounds
Pigeon.
like we're so old.
Yeah, I know. Fax. No, we don't even have a fax number anymore, do we?
No. My
I think
pager.
I think I let it go a couple of years ago. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just didn't have a need for it. I was talking to some realtors the other day, and it's like, no, I have a bank that we work with. They still do fax.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Can you believe
Very
that?
archaic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally went off the rails there. I don't know
That's
where
all
I was
right.
going. All right, home values, Tracy. Let's talk about home values.
Okay.
Like, what is your home worth? How do you figure that out? And why it really matters to track your home value. There's a lot of reasons for that. And so I don't know, that's kind of where we're starting here.
Are we talking home equity or what your home is worth? Kind of both.
Really? Yeah. I mean, they go together, sure.
So when we think about it, most people only think about their home's value when they're selling. And, actually what your home's value is could affect your everyday finances, even if you never move. And just knowing that value, we just talked about what the county assessor thinks your home is worth. That's really different than what your house might get on the market, we hope, right? We hope it's higher than the county assessor values it at. But homes are emotional and they're a financial asset. And knowing perhaps what your house is worth and what your equity is in that could be important. But Tego, tell us what equity is.
I just want to hit on one thing. You said, I just want to just talk about this whole asset as well as, it's an emotional thing. We did the story a few weeks ago, maybe last week anyway, the joy, the
joy factor.
The joy factor, what was it called? Anyway, the joy factor of like remodels and, like how it brings joy in kitchens, was the big one. But homes are an asset. And for Americans, it's a big part of people's net worth.
It really is.
And knowing your net worth is tied directly into knowing what the equity and what the value of your home is. So anyway, knowing your home value matters. It impacts your net worth. It affects your insurance coverage. It matters for your property taxes, which we've just been talking about. It's critical if you're considering getting a home equity line of credit, also known as a HELOC. It can remove your PMI if you have private mortgage insurance or mortgage insurance. You can get that removed if your equity is high enough.
Depending on the type of loan you have.
Correct. That's for sure. And it could influence your retirement planning for sure. And part of that is also your estate planning and inheritance discussions.
Tego, we've talked to a lot of people lately that are sort of our age. Not that we're thinking about retirement, but we've had friends who've been talking about retirement lately, and they are talking with their estate attorneys, and knowing your home's value has been a part of that, where we've helped a few people out with that recently.
So let's talk about equity real quick. And what is equity? Sam, can you pull up that screen? And I want to just share something here. We're looking at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. It has all kinds of wonderful data. It's like a gold mine for us data nerds. But one of the charts they have here is household owners' equity in real estate. Homeowner equity hit an all-time high in the second quarter of 2024 at 35.5 trillion with a T.
That's a big number.
That's equity. That's not home values. That's how much equity homeowners in the United States have.
We haven't really defined equity yet.
Yeah, let's do that.
Equity is the difference between what your home is worth and what you owe on it.
Correct. So if you were to sell it, if you've got a mortgage, you pay off that mortgage, how much cash do you have left over? If you don't have a mortgage, obviously it's the entire value, obviously minus any closing costs that you may have when you sell. So equity is a big deal. I've got a couple other charts. I wanted to show one thing. This is something I put together. I'll explain it if you're not watching online, but go ahead.
Where are people watching online? Is this on YouTube and Facebook?
Yeah, YouTube. YouTube would be the main place you're watching this. And if you are watching us on YouTube, please hit subscribe, as they say. So mortgage status in the Albuquerque area, I did a deep dive on this. And what I found is about 39% of homeowners in the 4-county metro Albuquerque area is about about 40% of them are free and clear, meaning they have no mortgage. They have no mortgage, free and clear, 100% equity.
That's awesome.
And this one also breaks down, okay, of the 60% that left, what kind of interest rates they have. But that means only about 60% of the homeowners in the Albuquerque area have a mortgage. Now, I've got another chart that's pretty interesting, and it was of the people that have a mortgage, what is their loan to value ratio? A lot of untapped net worth out there that's sitting in people's homes, right?
Which means it's not liquid. It's not like cash that you can just go and spend.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let's go back to our information here, Tracy. If we can go back to let me just go back to the chart here. Your home, it's not just a financial asset, right? We talked about that. It's a place you live. But home equity builds over time. It's,
Builds wealth over time.
builds
Yeah.
wealth. It's not
Yeah.
cash flow, it's building wealth, right?
Mhm.
And so it's important to track that. And there's some data on that. Go ahead.
Well, I was thinking the data that we saw in advance of putting this together talks about how much home equity is for wealthy versus not wealthy.
Yeah, I think it's an
It's-
important distinction because on average, about 60% of homeowners' wealth is in their home, but it's even higher in lower income. So people that are kind of in the lower socioeconomic, area that own a home, most of their net worth is tied up in their home. But if you go to the higher income individuals, people in the higher end of the income bracket, it's much smaller percentage of their net worth.
And so when you told me that, my brain needed to understand it a little bit, right? So I went, why is that? And of course, it's because the higher net worth have other investments as well besides just their home
Sure.
with their equity. So
Sure.
they've got stocks, bonds, whatever, IRAs and 401ks and perhaps
yeah.
other types of investments besides just the wealth in their home.
So there's
So-
one chart that's always floating around, Tracy, that talks about homeowners' net worth versus renters' net worth.
Right.
And currently it's about 400,000 is the net worth of the average homeowner in the United States. And the average renter, it's about $10,000, about 40 times more for a homeowner versus renter. Now, we can get into this whole cause and effect debate and what it is, but the reality is that's what it is.
We're just putting a number out
Yeah,
there.
it's 400,000 versus 10,000. So again, there's a lot of equity in people's home. So Tracy, let's just talk about ways that people can check their home values and then pros and cons of each.
3 easy ways, right? Online valuations. Everybody's probably seen those offers online. They can be fairly accurate or fairly not accurate.
Well, we offer one that the most famous or infamous, depending on your point of view, is the Zestimate from Zillow,
Right.
right? I mean, that's what Zillow built their whole thing about was,
Right.
put a value on every single home in the entire country. And there's a term in the business called the AVM, and it's automated valuation modeling or automated valuation model. And there's some pros and cons to that.
Right.
The pro is that it's easy. You can just get on and look. And again, we offer one as well.
Yeah. And when you look at those ones that are out there, they kind of give you a range, high to low. And sometimes there's, your property is somewhere in that range, but we can, on the one that we offer, we can actually modify it with input, right? And
Yeah.
make it more accurate.
So the pro is it's easy, it's quick, it gives you a baseline, it gives you a place to start. The con is that it's not going to be very accurate.
It
It
could be
it
by
could be.
accident, sort
Just
of.
give us an example where it could be accurate and where it could not be accurate.
A neighborhood that's production built homes, maybe a few years old, where they have a lot of recent data and the homes haven't changed much in the last few years, they could be very accurate. You go to some parts of Albuquerque and the outlying areas, you go to Tejeras or the North Valley or the South Valley or Corrales, we know that houses can vary from one house to the next, not just street to street, but house to house.
Yeah.
So-
So that's one way to do it is the instant online valuation. The second one is us, a broker, an agent, a realtor comes out, looks at your house, does a market analysis, CMA we call it, comparative market analysis or competitive market analysis. There's people throw it around different ways, but basically we're actually dig into the data and look at what homes is sold, right? What homes are, we use the word comparable, but that's not always a fair way to put it, right?
I use relevant. I
Yeah.
call it relevant sales because it may be relevant, but not really that similar, but something that's in the same area that an appraiser might look at and give some pluses and minuses to adjust from that property to your property.
Yeah. So there's adjustments that are made for square footage and condition and location. And, the list goes on and on. And then, of
So
course, the third one is kind of, go ahead.
the
Oh, wait,
third,
let's talk about pros and cons on that. I'm sorry, we didn't do that. I meant to do that. So for the broker CMA, the realtor CMA, the pro is it's going to be way more accurate than the online thing. The con is you probably need to have somebody come out and visit your house, which a lot of people, don't want to do that, but we're happy to do that. And we do that at no cost to our clients, right?
just as a service, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then the third way is a formal appraisal.
Yeah.
And in our market, most people don't do a formal appraisal, even if they're thinking of selling, because I know some states, they do an appraisal before they sell and they've already said this is the value of that property and then it's good for the sale. But for us, even if you do a appraisal before you sell, that appraisal doesn't help at all when you have an actual contract.
The con is that there's a cost to it.
Right.
It's going to cost you some money. And, anywhere, I don't know, let's just say
$500, $600, $700.
$600, $700, $800, something like that.
It
Just,
depends
just
on the
depends.
complexity of the property.
And so that's the con of it. Again, somebody's going to come out and, look at the house, look over of it, measure it maybe, to give a full appraisal. The pro is it's going to be pretty accurate. The challenge is you can't take into account, is there a buyer out there that's just waiting for your home to come on the market and it's the perfect home for them? You can't put a value on that, right?
Not really. The other reason some people do formal appraisals is for the value of an estate, perhaps after somebody passes away and they need to get that value established right then and there for the estate purposes.
Yeah.
So Tego, we have our AVM, so to speak,
Yeah.
our auto value system
Mhm.
that we take and use regularly.
Yeah, let's take a look at this, Tracy. I pulled it up on the screen here. If you're online and watching us on video, if you're just listening, we'll just talk about it here.
Yeah, so it's an AVM, automated value. However, we have the ability to adjust based on getting input from somebody who owns a property to help it be more accurate.
And the whole idea is we offer this as a service to our, anybody that really wants. I mean, I was going to say our clients, but really anybody can get on our website.
Oh, lots of people use
search
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
lots of people get regular monthly updates on their property
we
value.
have about 10,000 people that are getting these, something like that.
Yeah.
And it allows you to track what your home is worth, as well as what's going on in the neighborhood. So I'm going to just walk through this here quick. And first and foremost, it gives you a value estimate.
And a range.
Again, this is automated valuation, right? And like you said, it can be adjusted if we need to. It shows trends and prices over time, talks about what home you have. But there's one thing that's kind of cool here is you can plug in what your estimated mortgage payoff is or what your mortgage payoff is. And based on whatever that valuation is, you'll see how much potential equity you have in the home, right?
Right.
So if you're going to be applying for a HELOC, for example, home equity line of credit, you want to know how much padding you have to work with there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What you might be approved for.
Exactly. And then, we give you recent sales, what's going on in the neighborhood, and as well as just some market data and mortgage rates. And if you want to reach out to us, you can just do that there. We also offer a cash offer option.
Well, and let's talk about that. So there's a button there that says request a cash offer, and we do get those. There are people who don't want their house shown, who have 3 kids and 3 dogs, and it's inconvenient to have their house shown. And so a cash offer could be the way to go for convenience. So that's also there.
If you want to check this out, you can visit. We've got it on our short link on our website, but the link to it, it's on our website, but the short link is abq.re/value. So abq.re/value. abq.re/value. And that'll take you right here. You just plug in your address, couple little bit of details, and you can get signed up for that, and you can start tracking your home value and see what the AVM says. And then if you want to get a much deeper dive, we can do that. So we got way off track talking about that, but I wanted to share it.
So if somebody wants to do that, we've got the QR code. And what happens is about every month or so, you get a new email in your inbox that says, hey, here's your monthly update on what's going on. So you can get the neighborhood statistics, find out what might be happening with your property.
So let's go back to just a couple things on home values and again, why it's important. One of the things we find is that people don't realize how much the value of their home has increased over time.
Oh, I bet you have some stats for
I've
that.
got some stats for that. I'm going to pull up my notes just so I make sure that I'm saying it right. So in the last couple of years, home values in the Albuquerque area have gone up about 10%, just to give you a kind of a basic idea. And that's good. That's just kind of a moderate appreciation. Even, in the last year, it's been about 3%. But over the last 5 years, which of course, we're going back to some pretty extraordinary times, home values in Albuquerque in the last 5 years have gone up 57%.
In 5 years.
In 5 years. In the last 10 years, and you got to think about that.
I was going to you want me to guess, huh?
Yeah, 10 years, you go back to 2015, 100%. 100%. So home values have doubled in the last 10 years in the Albuquerque area. So you may have a lot more equity, a lot more net worth than you want. So that's one point I wanted to bring up on that.
So how a wrong value could cost real money. One of the bullet points on our cheat sheet here is maybe you're underinsuring the value of your home, right? What if you have a natural disaster or an unnatural disaster? And
side note on that was a issue and a problem in California when they had all those wildfires in the Los Angeles area.
Probably in New Mexico too. We've had some very bad wildfires. And, if you're underinsured, that could be an issue.
Yeah, Mora fires, the Ruidoso fires just last year.
Right.
Yeah, so if you're underinsured, you could be in trouble if something, God forbid, really bad happens.
Yep.
You could be missing refinance opportunities as well. Now, if you've got a low mortgage right now, you probably don't want to touch it, right? If you've got one of those 4% or even 5% and under mortgages right now, you don't want to refinance it, but sometimes it does make sense if you're doing debt consolidation or other stuff like that. So if you've gotten a situation where you've got some expensive debt like credit card debt, it might still make sense to refinance even at the 7% mortgages we see right now.
So one of the other things we know, Tego, is we've seen a few times where people have left money on the table because they don't really know how much their home is worth. They get somebody sending them a letter in the mail or something saying we buy houses, and they have sold the house for what we believe is too cheap.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people out there doing the we buy houses thing. We got 3 postcards in the mail the other day for
2 letters and 1 postcard.
Yeah, it's 3 of them on the same day for the same property, one of our rental properties. And it's funny because I know all 3 of the people that are doing that and know what your home is worth. So if you do get that offer and it does look enticing, make sure you know so you're not, again, like you said, leaving money on the table. You can always reach out to us and we'd be happy to just do a courtesy value estimate for you.
Right. So if you're not sure, let us know. We'd be happy to help you with a free valuation. Doing an annual home valuation is not a bad idea anyway. So that website again, abq.re/values.
Very good.
Right?
Yeah. No S.
Values.
Value. I guess I should do both just in case somebody types it wrong. Okay, Sam, mark that down. We need to fix that website so that we've got it. So Sam's our producer here and he's over here controlling the screen. But yeah,
we've talked about a lot of heavy stuff here, Tego, a lot of really important stuff, and we've used up almost all of our time. We need to talk about a great testimonial that came in this week. We want to congratulate Sonia and her client, Christy, who took the time to leave 5-star testimonial on Zillow and Google. And Sonia worked really hard and devoted a lot of time to the process. And It's great when we get these testimonials that just show, we go above and beyond and really want to make sure our clients have an outstanding experience. So congrats, Sonia, and to your client, Christy, on her new home. So that was great.
Okay, I got
also.
Go ahead.
Parade of Homes is still going on.
Yeah.
So this past weekend, I know Sunday was really windy, but a lot of people were out and about looking at Parade of Homes, and there are some fantastic homes to see. So there's still time this weekend. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So plan it out. You can just go to Central New Mexico, Parade of Homes. You can Google it and find out. And go see some great homes. Get some design ideas, even if you're not in the market to buy or sell a new home, right?
Yeah.
Get some great ideas. Okay, Tego.
Okay, so there was a headline. I'm trying to pull it up so I can share
What's
it.
this session called?
What did I say on Facebook? I said something I thought was kind of
snarky.
Snarky. It was snarky. I said today we have another episode of real estate headlines that make me crazy.
Yeah.
And what I was trying to point out is that national stories do not reflect local reality. And so what happens a lot of times is these national entities will, let me pull it up here. There it is. Yeah, there you go, Sam. You can go ahead and share that. So this was in Albuquerque Business First. Now, Business First is a national publication. They have, local reporters in each community as well, but then they also have national stories that they just kind of roll up and post. And of course, at the top of this, it says Albuquerque Business First, and it says residential real estate, and it says housing market shifts in favor of buyers, but they're not buying.
Yeah.
Was the headline. And I'm like, okay, all right, I guess I got to go do the work and show you why you're wrong. And the short of it is home sales are up about 10% over last year. The units, the number of homes selling. Pending sales, the number of homes that, are under contract to close are about, I think, 12% the last time I looked versus last year.
Up 12%.
Up 12%.
And those are homes that recently went pending sale that are up
Yeah.
12%. So the headline's pretty misleading. And we know from feet on the ground.
I'm going to say it's half misleading. We'll talk about that.
Feet on the ground is we've had a lot of buyers looking at houses in the last couple of weeks. And, with the warmer weather, it's that time for us. And we're seeing it be a busy season. Yeah,
it is. And the headline, again, they do say it's from the national part, but of course, people don't see that. They think of it as a local story. It's not a local story. It's a national story. And real estate is local. We say that over and over and over again, right? You can't compare what's happening in Albuquerque to Austin or Florida or Phoenix. We get compared to Phoenix a lot, right? It's just different. And it says housing market shift into favor of buyers. I will say that is true from where it was a year ago. Definitely where it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago, right? There's more homes on the market this year than we've seen in a long time. It's about 30% more than just a year ago. So there are a lot more options for buyers for sure, right? And people, meaning buyers, are understanding these mortgage rates that we're at as kind of the new normal, and there's really no big
waiting for the
big push to do anything that'll bring them down. And I just, Lawrence Hune, the chief economist with National Association of Realtors, was here in Albuquerque last week at the New Mexico Lenders Association event and talked about mortgage rates, and he didn't see anything in the pipeline that's going to help. So I think my point is it's the new normal, and buyers are starting to recognize it's like, okay, it's time to move. We just need to do this, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So time's up, Tego, but here we are talking real estate again, and we could just keep going with all the good information. If you want to reach out to us, we're at 448-8888. That's our phone, 505-448-8888. We're all on all of the socials and everywhere. You can find us everywhere. So if you prefer a different method, do that.
The socials. That's
the
kind
socials.
Of like the Facebook.
The Facebook.
The X. The LinkedIn.
Okay, that's enough.
I post all my market updates for the most part on Facebook, also LinkedIn, sometimes on Twitter. So it just depends, or Instagram. There's too many places to post stuff. That's the problem. Yep. And of course, on YouTube as well.
So let us know how we can help you, and have a great week.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching the video all the way to the end. We appreciate you. And please click subscribe. We'll keep you updated on what's going on with real estate in the Albuquerque area and New Mexico, and of course, across the entire country. Have a great one.